Hey there, I'm Miss Laura with the Wichita Falls Arts Council, and today we're going to create a symmetrical picture composition. And to do that, we're going to need a few things. The most important being a sheet of 1/4-inch graph paper, meaning that each of these little tiny blue squares are 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. I also have 4 half sheets of different colors of construction paper. The colors don't matter, I think, as long as they're all different, so you have some variety. This is also a good project to use scrap paper if you guys have a scrap bin. You can use just scrap, or you can use scrap in addition to these 4 sheets to add some more color. I have a pencil for drawing shapes to cut out and scissors to cut out the shapes, and glue to glue everything together. So I'm going to show a few examples of finished work. A lot of them are pretty wonky and wrinkly right now because I accidentally dropped this whole pile into a puddle, but they're drying nicer than I expected. So this is my driest piece and one of my favorites. If you look at the very center, so this paper was divided in half vertically. I have little remnants of a line so that everything on this right side is a mirror image of everything on the left side. And I did that by cutting things out at the same time with folding paper, cutting it and gluing it, using the help of my graph paper to make sure that everything, like these stars here, are an equal distance from the center on both sides. So if I look at these 2 polygons, they are a mirror image of each other, and they're the same distance from the center. So if I look at this one, it looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares away from the center, meaning that this one also has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares away from the center, and everything is placed like that, where you can see little squares. There's another one that's also split down the middle vertically. Water. We have what kind of looks like a face and some hands. So you can choose to make it completely abstract and just do random shapes. You can also do some representational images, like I have some things that can easily be identified as trees. These are very obviously hands. So you do a combination of abstract and representational. It can be all abstract. It can be one very cohesive picture that's mirrored on one side and the other. I started by making abstract shapes on this one. I thought they kind of looked like coral, so I added a little fish. This one is all abstract. I have some squiggly lines, a lot of shapes with straight edges. Oh wait, here's one that's split differently than the other, so you can choose how you want to split your paper in half, whether it's this way or this way. But these are also a mix of abstract shapes. There's another one that is, oh no, it's fine. I'll glue that back later. Okay. Mostly abstract shapes, but then I put little hippos down here at the bottom. It's kind of like they're on a green patch, and more of the same. Oh, this is one of my favorites. I think this kind of looks like a pear who's doing a DIY project. That's why he has 2 hammers. Of course, because if he has a hammer on one side of the middle, then he has to have a mirror hammer on the other side. So you can make one symmetrical thing or 2 symmetrical, or I guess 2 identical things on either side. Okay, so there's hands holding some ice cream. There's the middle. This one is all polygons. Okay. So you don't need to be able to draw anything. You can just cut out shapes and make sure that they're placed the exact same distance from the center on either side. Some more coral. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is decide how we want to divide our paper in half. So whether you want your line to go down the middle this way or the middle this way. I think I'm going to have my line go down the middle this way. And the easiest way to find the center is to take the top two corners and have them meet. And then pinch the little end here so that when you open up your paper, that little pinch should be pretty close to one of the blue graph paper lines. If it doesn't fall exactly on a line, then just pick the line that's closest. We really want to use our graph paper to help us measure. So I'm going to just make a little dash line with a pencil all the way down my blue graph paper line that's closest to the center. And I'm going to, or the reason for doing this is so that I always know where the center of my paper is. I can always erase this dash line later after I'm all done. Everything is glued, but this is just going to help me keep track of where the center is until I am done. So to create symmetrical shapes that are either stuck together in the middle, like these hands, these are all from one sheet and they're connected in the center. So we can make one of these shapes that's connected in the center by taking one of our papers and folding it in half. I'm actually going to cut this in half because I don't want a giant shape. You could use this whole paper to make a giant shape if you wanted, but I'm just going to cut this in half really quick. A smaller sheet of paper. Oh, okay. So I want this to be a shape that's connected in the center. So I'm going to just start by folding my paper in half. And starting from the folded side, right, the side with the fold on it, not this open edge here, I'm going to draw something without, or not completely in the center of my paper, but against this folded line here. So even if I did, I'll just do a heart. I'm using my pencil to draw a half heart. Okay, keeping my paper folded, I'm going to cut out both sides. So at all points of this project, you're going to either be cutting both sides of a folded sheet of paper or two sheets stacked on top of each other, but you're always going to be cutting two sides or two papers at once to create your symmetrical image. Okay, so once I have cut my little half heart out, oops, I'm going to open it up, and I have this handy little line in the center of my heart, and I can line it up with the center line of my graph paper. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. You can wait to glue things down at the end, or you can just glue as you go. So I'm lining up the center of my heart, this line going down the middle here, with this line here. So that way, if I were to fold my paper in half, right on that center line, both sides of my heart would match up exactly. It's a mirror image from the center. Okay. So not all of your images or your shapes need to be connected at the center. If you want to do shapes that are separate, like the tops of these ice cream cones, the ice cream part, right? They're not connected in the center. Then all you have to do is either grab scrap or one of your half sheets. I'm just going to cut a little piece off. and I'm going to fold in half. And now I'm going to draw a shape in the center. I'm not going to worry about this folded edge here because I don't need this one to be connected. I'm just going to do a polygon. Okay, so 6 sides, hexagon. And I'm going to cut both sides out at the same time, making sure to hold them tightly together so that they're the same when I'm done cutting. Okay. And because I cut both sides out at the same time, I now have identical shapes. I'm going to start by gluing one on one side here. This. So this one is glued on. Now I need to make sure that this one is glued on the same distance from my little center dash line as this one. So I'm making sure that this is also mirroring this one. Place it on top, make sure it lines up. You can flip it. And so it looks like this one starts at about this line here, and it's 1, 2, 3 squares away from the center. So I know that this one, 4 squares away, now it's 3 squares away. And so it is the exact same distance from the center line. These little top corners are meeting at the same point too. So I'm using my graph paper to help me figure out where I need to place my symmetrical shapes. Okay, so there's one shape connected in the center. Really easy to place onto your paper by just lining up the center fold with your little dashed pencil line. And these ones, if they're separate, you just need to count the squares and make sure they're the same distance away from the center. So I'm going to continue just adding different shapes by folding my papers and cutting out shapes both sides at the same time, and then gluing them on so that they're the same distance from the center. Well, thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.